You're listening to Happy Hour Hustle from the creative geniuses here at 834. We're funny, informative, and we swear. We talk all things marketing, communication, small business, plus we offer up hot takes on our industry and whatever else we feel like talking about. So, grab your drink of choice. It's always 5 o'clock at 834. And crank it up. Hey hustlers, here at 834, we are lucky to have an incredible network of freelancers and contractors we work with to get the job done. Today we want to talk about how to build and keep those relationships healthy, which is why we brought in Jenna Brooks, a graphic design BA from Calvin University from New Jersey. Jenna has a background in freelance designing logos and signage. She's done freelance graphic design for the American Association of Netherlandic Studies in local businesses in New Jersey and the Grand Rapids area. Jenna, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about, how you build those relationships, how to keep those relationships strong, the best way that companies can work with you. So I kind of want to start about talking client expectations. How do you manage client expectations and communication as an external contractor for businesses?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so important to keep that open communication right from the get-go. I try and get everything down on paper so that there is nothing missed in communication, from expectations, from revisions, of kind of bit about my process, just so that the client can kind of be cued in from the beginning. I know it's a whole new world that they probably don't understand. So it's really important to kind of just lay that all out for them from the beginning.
Very nice. And what are some key elements that you ensure are included in your contract when you're working with someone?
Yeah, definitely. So as a student, I kind of just do freelance on the side for now. So all these assets are things that I'm slowly just developing over time. But a few key things that I love to include on my contract, once again, just keeping those details out in the open for everyone. I include a little section about my revision process because as you're creating and sending things to clients, there's a lot of feedback, and I think it's really important to kind of just state how many revisions can be included in your generic package. So I kind of have a little section that specifies how many revisions you get, and that you can add them on. It's just going to be a little bit more of an additional cost.
Right. Your time is, worth money.
Yeah, my time is definitely worth my money, and that's something that's so hard is putting a number on yourself. But you kind of learn that throughout the process. And then I love to include a good cancellation or ghosting little section. Right. Just to kind of cover yourself because, you put this work in the beginning and you could just get ghosted, and you need to kind of watch out for yourself in the industry as well.
Right. Question, you don't have to name names, but have you ever been ghosted by someone
I
mid-project?
have not.
Okay, that's good.
I'm early on in my career, but as I was kind of developing my designer client agreement, it was something that came up that I would have never initially thought about. But it's just so important because your time is so valuable, to just kind of make sure you're covered in all realms.
And you did kind of talk about it a little bit, but what advice do you give to other freelance designers about negotiating contracts?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that, along with my peers, we're all still learning is to not undervalue yourself. It's so hard to put a number on things, but your time is worth the money. And if you're just going to do a quick revision for something, they just need a different file size, that's your time, that's your skill, it's your career. Don't undervalue yourself. So that's just a daily reminder that we have to keep with.
And you did touch on the revisions thing. I know, every marketer goes through it with clients. They want, 9, 10, 20 revisions, that sort of thing. How do you handle revisions or changes requested by the company within the scope of your contract? I know you said you kind of had a clause in there about it, but also just, keeping those relationships strong has to be a little different than if they're a full-time client.
Yeah, definitely. So thankfully in the beginning of my freelance where I am, a lot of my clients are friends and family. So they're very encouraging and willing to work with me as I figure out my process myself. But as you kind of develop your freelance career, you know how long projects take you. So when you initially meet with a client, you can kind of make a generic timeline, which I know I'm thinking of one of my clients in my head. That's what I did during my initial meeting, because what they were asking for the first review, I knew it would take me maybe a week to do with the time I had. So in my little revision clause, for this, I have one printed in front of me, and this specific person I allowed 2 revisions, and specified how long that it would take me. So I think I said it was like a minimum of like 48 to 72 hours to complete, just to keep that communication open so they weren't expecting new designs on their desk within 30 minutes. So yeah, I just kind of will tweak that dependent on the client and their need. But yeah, just trying to get like rough estimates of how long it'll take you can be really helpful.
And how do you balance that with this, I don't want it to sound so lame, but like the society we live in of instant gratification? You know, I want this done immediately. How do you balance and explain that to the clients that you work with?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the clients I work with come from no creative background or don't quite understand the design. They're like, this is just so scary. That's why we hired you. So it's really important to kind of justify your career to them and let them know, you know, this is going to take a minute to think through, do some sketches, and then get it on paper or digital. So I just kind of lay out my process a little bit for them and like walk them through it so that if they're like, oh, why does it take you 3 days? I'm like, well, I have to do this and that, and like creative burnout exists. Like I can't just sit down and instantly have an entire brand done for you. So just to kind of be very open about the whole process is a great way to kind of cue clients in.
Absolutely. And you've talked a few times about that clear communication aspect of it. How do you ensure that you are keeping the clear communication with whatever company you're working with while still maintaining your independence as a freelancer or contractor?
Yeah, definitely. So I try to keep everything through email because I can close my computer at the end of the day, keep it to a 9 to 5 or whatever my freelance like time happens to be. And then I just like to have everything in writing so that we can go back and reference. Because if there's a miscommunication, I love being very open with my communication. And if there's something that's gone wrong, let's fix it before it becomes more of a problem. So just whether that's taking notes at revision meetings or like following up with like minutes and next steps, I really just try and like stay on it with that communication because things can get lost so quick.
Oh my gosh. Well, and just talking with people, I forget sometimes 10 minutes later. So I have to keep notes for myself. Like, this is what we talked about. There were action items out of this. Make sure you do it. So
for sure.
Totally understand that. Let's talk a little bit about, hiring freelance versus full-time. What is the unique value of hiring a freelance graphic designer versus someone that you have on board full-time at a company?
Yeah, definitely. In my eyes, it kind of feels like you're supporting a small business in a sense. Now, that might not necessarily be true. That's just kind of like how I see it spin on things. And it feels a little more authentic. A couple summers ago, I had the chance to spend a few days with a full-time freelance designer back home. And it was so cool to just see how she worked and just like built this business from the ground up with herself. And so it just feels a lot more personal to me as well. And it's really cool to kind of like build your network with it too, because a lot of my clients, they're like friends and family. And so they really want to like connect with someone they know, who they like can trust. And it just kind of makes it a little bit more personal to me, I feel like.
Absolutely. And I always thought about this too, like if it kind of depends on the company's needs, right? Like if you need someone to come in and help like kick something off or start from the ground and then you're able to hand it off, maybe that's something you could do freelancer versus someone you need to like manage that full time. So I think there's like a little bit of that too when working with different brands. And it's just like, you just have to decide what do you need from your graphic designer. Definitely. What advice do you give to companies who are looking to hire someone freelance graphic design wise?
Yeah, definitely. So if you have any ideas of what you want, bring them to the table. You don't have to have like this whole thing fledged out, but open communication is really important as well. If you have any questions or concerns or maybe change your mind, let the designer know as soon as you know so that their time is not wasted. I think it's really important to just kind of value a designer's time too, because it feels, especially like in the midst of it all, that design can like kind of run away from you, and a lot of people don't necessarily see how much work goes in behind it, especially nowadays. Like you have Canva that can like help like a regular person like design these things, but like to get like a full-fledged brand or deliverables, there's so much work that goes into that. So just valuing a designer's time and that open communication can be really important to keep that like client designer relationship really healthy.
Absolutely. Sorry, they're yelling about Frank out there. That's our rescue dog, if anyone heard that.
He's so cute.
He's very cute. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how this experience has influenced your approach to future freelance opportunities, the stuff that you've already done, what you've learned, what you want to take forward with you.
Yeah, definitely. So when I started, I had a really rough idea of what I needed to do to like kind of protect myself as a freelancer. And thankfully, once again, like I was working with friends and family. They were so encouraging and willing to kind of help me figure out the process as I worked with them. So like that just kind of helped me to like take more of a business mindset to it and like have things organized. Like I now use like a very specific invoicing system. I'm not just texting them like, oh, here's this, or sending a Venmo request or anything. So just to kind of keep all my ducks in a row was so important. Yeah, and just like being on top of it, knowing what time I have and being honest about that. Like if I don't have time this week to help you, here's my schedule. Like just trying to be very open about it.
Yeah. All great advice. And I do just, every time I talk with a graphic designer, I like to pick your brain on things. Yeah. So these are just a few fun ones for the end. What's your favorite tool to work on with so much out there in terms of designing?
Yeah, I feel like my career was born and raised in Adobe Illustrator. Okay. Yeah. So while it's not the most efficient for a lot of things, I do love using it. This summer I've had a lot of work in Photoshop as well, so I'm definitely kind of exploring that some more too. Okay. But yeah, the Adobe suite is awesome and I live in it.
All right, what about print or digital work?
I love print work. It's so fun to be able to like create a little like brochure or pamphlet and be able to like print it out and have your work in your hand. And there's just a whole unique aspect to that work. We're printing it out and seeing, wow, this looks horrible compared to how it looks on the computer, and just having to figure out the puzzle of revising that. It's just a little asset of like design that I absolutely love.
Absolutely. And then where do you pull inspiration from when you're starting a project, either from scratch, or how does your brain work?
Yeah. So I feel like as a designer, it's so hard to turn your brain off. Like I've been having this conversation with friends so much lately. So I'm constantly always scrolling Pinterest to kind of feed my creative outlet, and I'll search random keywords in there. I also have this like, I think it's like Pigment at Shape Factory website that is just full of colors and swatches and things that work. And it's so fun to find like high contrast color palettes through that. So mostly just like Pinterest and color palettes. That's where I find a lot of my inspiration.
I love that you said high contrast color palettes is so fun. And I'm like, okay, sure. We have different ideas of fun, but I love that you love that.
Yeah.
That's great. And then just anything else that you want to add that I didn't ask about, any advice for other freelancers, for companies that want to work with you?
Yeah, definitely. I think just like the open communication between designers and clients is so important, especially to keep that healthy relationship and to value each other's time and career, and just know that a designer is hiring a client just as much as a client is hiring a designer. If you eventually like feed like a toxic relationship, a designer might choose to not hire you back. Yeah. So it's like just as much stakes for you as it is for us in a sense. So it's really important to just kind of keep that healthy relationship going.
Awesome. And then just one last one.
Yeah.
Favorite design brand that's been done?
Oh my goodness. So this is really funny and it's kind of niche, I feel like. Have you heard of Goodles?
I don't think so, but now I want to Google it.
So Goodles is this like plant-based like macaroni brand.
Yeah, mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. And it is so fun. It's literally like, it has a chokehold on me for no reason. It's just like the high contrast colors. Yes. And it's such like a trend right now, but I won't shut up about how much I love their branding.
It is fun. And look, I want to take a bite of that mac and cheese now.
It's so good.
It looks incredible. Yeah. All right. Well, Jenna Brooks, thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it. Come back anytime.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, hustlers, see you on the download.